the invisible architect. He thought my login gave him access to a treasure trove. Instead, it was filled with junk. I watched him create a $12 million presentation using my fake data. Then I sat back and enjoyed the show from the best seat in the house. This is how I used 6 dummy files and a little patience to take down a person who tried to ruin my career. My name is Maddie Cross, and for 6 years, I was the invisible force behind every successful data project at New Tech Solutions. At 36, I was single and, according to my work reviews, reliable but lacking leadership qualities. This is just corporate talk for, she does all the hard work, but we can't see her in a senior role. I've spent my career fixing big data problems. For example, when the Prime account was a mess, they called me at 11:45 p.m. on a Friday. I fixed it by 3 a.m. When our biggest client's computer model was broken, I rebuilt 18 months of work in 4 days. No one asked how, they just took the credit. The good thing about being invisible is that you see everything. I've watched younger managers present my ideas to the board. I've sat in meetings where my solutions were explained word for word by people who didn't understand them. I was passed over for promotions 3 times. The feedback was always the same. Maddie needs to work on her leadership skills. This really meant Maddie doesn't socialize with the important people. New Tech Solutions has its offices in a modern building in London. It's a place with exposed brick walls, standing desks, and all the latest tech. Everyone there talks about new ideas and growth, but panics when a basic program crashes. I had a small office with no windows, hidden between the server room and the supply closet. It was perfect. No one ever bothered me there. The new hire. Everything changed when we won the Horizon Outdoors project. It was a $30 million deal to improve their data systems and create new computer models for their 500 stores. This was the kind of project that could make a career. Of course, I thought I'd be doing the work behind the scenes while someone else got the glory. For once, I was wrong. In the first meeting, our CEO, Marcus Chen, mentioned my name. Maddie will be key to this project's success, he said, looking at me. Her skills are exactly what Horizon needs. For a moment, I allowed myself to believe this might finally be my chance. I started planning the project, building a team, and imagining myself presenting to Horizon's board. I should have known better. That same week, HR announced a new hire. They had hired a rising star from our biggest rival, a person who would improve our client relationships. The email showed a professional photo of a man who looked like a star. He had a strong jaw, perfect teeth, and the kind of confident smile that says, "I've never had a late-night work emergency." His name was Chase Darrow, and he was about to become my problem. Chase Darrow arrived on a Monday morning like a storm in a fancy suit. He was 31 years old with a perfect resume. The whole office was buzzing. Marcus introduced him at a company meeting. "Chase will be leading the Horizon Outdoors project," he said. Chase stood there, confident, like someone who has never seen their work fail. "He brings a fresh perspective," Marcus continued. Then, as an afterthought, he added, "Maddie will be supporting all analysis and technical work." Supporting. There it was, that word that meant everything and nothing. It meant I would do the actual work while Chase did the talking. My name might appear in tiny letters on page 47 of the final presentation. It meant another year of being the one who does the work while someone else takes the applause. The trap is set. Chase found me in my office that afternoon. He didn't knock. "You must be Maddie," he said, with that shiny smile. "I've heard you're the data genius here." The compliment felt fake, like something he had learned from a business book. He leaned against my doorframe, taking up too much space. "I'm really looking forward to working with you. I have some exciting ideas for the Horizon project that will really impress them." I just smiled and nodded, playing my part. Inside, I was counting the hours I would have to spend fixing his exciting ideas. It started with simple demands. Hey Maddie, can you send me the historical data for Horizon's London stores? I need the customer data by the end of the day. There was no please or thank you, just commands. By the second week, he was sending me his emails with client questions and writing, "Handle this," at the top. The breaking point came on a Thursday afternoon. I was working on a complex computer model when Chase burst into my office. "I need your login details for the Horizon files," he said, not asked. "I'm putting together a quick presentation for the client and need access now." I replied carefully, "Those are my working files. They aren't ready for clients to see." He waved his hand dismissively. "I know what I'm doing. I just need to pull some charts for tomorrow's meeting. Email me the details." And then he was gone, leaving behind the smell of expensive cologne. I sat there for a moment, staring at my screen. 6 years of being ignored, of watching my work be stolen, of being told I wasn't good enough. Something inside me changed. Not anger. This was something colder and more focused. This was a plan. I opened a new folder, Horizon Final Reports, MC. My initials at the end, barely noticeable. Inside, I started to create something special. Not lies, which would be too obvious. Instead, I built professional-looking reports that were subtly, completely wrong. I made charts that looked good, but used broken formulas. The computer models were based on old rules, and the charts would fall apart under any real inspection. The email to Chase was short. "Here are the login details for the Horizon files. The files in Horizon Final Reports have what you need." I hit send, then saved a copy of the email to my personal computer. The trap was set. All I had to do now was wait. The 6 beautiful lies. Creating those dummy files was like writing a masterpiece of destruction. Each one had to be perfect and professional enough to pass a quick look, but flawed enough to explode under pressure. I worked on them in the evenings after Chase had left, usually around 6 p.m. The first file, Customer Retention Analysis 2024, looked great with its interactive charts and bright colors, but the numbers for keeping customers were upside down. The real data showed that 78% of customers stayed. My version showed a 22% loss being shown as a gain. The wrong formula was hidden deep inside, so only a real expert could find it. The second file, Revenue Projections Q3, Q4, had beautiful lines going up, suggesting 40% growth. But I had purposely used data from their Australian stores in Australian dollars and then showed it as US dollars without converting it. This would make their predictions off by millions. The third file, Market Segmentation Model, was my favorite. I used real customer data but applied old rules from 2014, before Horizon's big customer change. It would tell them to target older customers in areas that were now filled with young professionals. Files 4 through 6 were equally clever traps. A stock plan using the wrong seasonal numbers, a pricing model that ignored their past sales data, and a competitor analysis that mixed up Horizon's data with their biggest competitor. The best part? I built each file with my standard naming rules, my digital mark hidden in the file details. The creation dates showed they were made weeks before Chase even started at the company. Then I created a second set of files, the real ones, in my own secure folders with detailed notes on every number and decision. I also started leaving digital clues. Every time Chase looked at the dummy folders, my computer logged it. When he downloaded files, I knew. When he renamed them to remove my initials, I had screenshots. I used a simple computer script to build a perfect timeline of his actions. Chase took the bait right away. Within hours of getting the login details, he downloaded everything. The next morning, I watched him present my broken charts in the team meeting, talking about the insights he had found. "I was up all night working on these numbers," he announced, pointing to a chart I had built 3 weeks earlier. "The trends are amazing." Sarah from the analytics team raised her hand. "That customer loss rate seems wrong. Are we really losing that many loyal members?" Chase's smile didn't fade. That's exactly the kind of old thinking we need to challenge. Sometimes the data tells us hard truths. He moved to the next slide, my flawed revenue projections. But look at these growth opportunities. This is why Horizon hired us. I kept my face calm, taking notes like a good assistant. Inside, I was documenting every false claim, every lie, and every time he claimed my sabotaged work as his own. The final showdown. The next 3 weeks were a careful game. Chase would ask for new analysis, always at the last minute. I would provide them from my special folder. Each file was a perfect weapon, waiting to backfire. He started sharing them directly with Horizon's leadership, adding his name as the lead analyst, and sometimes giving me a tiny mention as data support in a footnote. The most telling moment came during a meeting with Marcus. Chase was showing our progress, using my dummy files. "The modeling work is fantastic," Marcus said, then looked at me. "Maddie, your technical skills really shine here." "Actually," Chase quickly jumped in, "while Maddie gave me some of the initial data, I've completely changed the approach. This is a totally new way of doing things." I just smiled and nodded. Chase has definitely put his own spin on things. I wanted him to own it. I wanted him to build his entire reputation on this foundation of bad data and impossible math. Every presentation he gave made him more committed to his lies. He couldn't go back now without admitting he had been presenting garbage for weeks. The main review with Horizon was set for the following Monday. Chase had already sent them the full presentation to look at. There was no turning back. The fire was lit, and I had a front row seat to watch it burn. The best part of a well-planned trap is that the victim triggers it themselves. I became Chase's most dedicated supporter. When he needed files by 8 a.m., they were in his inbox by 7:45. When he demanded last-minute changes, I delivered them with a smile. Every single interaction was logged, timestamped, and saved. My documentation was perfect. I had screenshots of every message where Chase claimed my work as his own. Just finished analyzing the Q3 projections, found some game-changing insights. I had video recordings of team meetings where he presented my dummy files. I've developed a new approach to customer segmentation. I had email threads where he sent my work to Horizon executives with his name on it. The most solid evidence came from Chase himself. He created a shared folder called CD Horizon Deliverables, where he stored his work, my corrupted files, with his name added to the headers. He didn't realize that our system kept a history of all versions, showing that the original files were copied from my folders, with timestamps proving I created them weeks before he arrived. I kept 2 separate projects running. While feeding Chase the bad files, I built the real analysis in secure folders only I could access. The actual Horizon data told a completely different story: realistic growth opportunities and useful information that would truly help their business. Every model was explained, every number was transparent. This was my real work, my safety net. Chase's confidence grew every day. He started cutting me out of meetings, telling Marcus I was better used doing back-end work. He even spoke at webinars about his new approach to retail data. He submitted a summary to the National Data Science Conference with charts pulled directly from my sabotaged files. The computer logs told the real story. Chase accessed my dummy folders 43 times in 4 weeks. He downloaded every file, some multiple times. He tried renaming them, but the digital fingerprints remained. Every action led back to those original broken files. 3 days before the big presentation, I heard Chase on a call with Horizon's CFO. "The numbers are completely solid," he promised her. "I've personally checked every model. This analysis is foolproof." He was standing right outside my office, speaking loud enough for me to hear. A power move to show me he was taking all the credit. I looked at my real analysis one more time. It was clean, correct, and ready. Everything Horizon truly needed. Then I looked at what Chase would be presenting: a $40 million disaster waiting to happen, built on impossible math and made-up predictions. The difference between reality and his fiction was huge. That evening, I sent every piece of evidence from my work computer to my personal accounts. The logs, the screenshots, the emails, everything. Then I sent a single email to my personal lawyer, explaining the situation and attaching the key documents. For your records, I wrote, in case questions about the quality of the work arise. On Thursday, Chase sent a company-wide email, excited to present our groundbreaking horizon analysis to their executive team on Monday. He copied the entire leadership team, the board of directors, and even some key investors. He was all in, putting his reputation on the line, completely unaware that he was about to present 6 files of carefully crafted garbage to a room full of people who knew their business inside and out. I spent Friday calmly getting ready. I wore my best suit, the one I had bought for interviews but never had a chance to wear. I checked my laptop to make sure the real analysis would display perfectly. I printed a hard copy of my evidence trail, organized by date, and put it in a professional folder. Chase came by my office at 4:15 p.m. You'll be at the Horizon meeting Monday, right? Just in case they have technical questions. His tone made it sound like an order. Wouldn't miss it, I replied. I'll be right there in the front row. He nodded, satisfied. Good, but I doubt I'll need backup. The work speaks for itself. Yes, I thought, watching him walk away in his expensive shoes. Yes, it does. The unraveling. The week before the presentation, I found out Chase had already shared the dummy files with Horizon's executives. He sent them a preview to build excitement, including all 6 corrupted analyses with a note. Prepare to be amazed. This is the next level of retail intelligence. I found out from Linda in sales, who sent me Horizon's response. Their CFO, Margaret Walsh, had shared Chase's files with her team with the comment, "Please review before Monday's session. Some of these predictions seem ambitious." Ambitious? If only she knew that the revenue model was using Australian dollars or that the customer segmentation was based on decade-old information. That realization changed my plan. This wasn't just about Chase anymore. Our client had bad data that could influence millions of dollars in decisions. The ethical weight of it was heavy, but I had come too far to stop now. The files were marked preliminary, not for distribution, but Chase had removed that before sending them. Another violation logged in my growing documentation folder. I spent the weekend making my real analysis perfect. Every chart had notes. Every model included clear explanations. This wasn't just good work. It was perfect. I also practiced my explanations, knowing I would have one chance to show my credibility when the time came. The most damning discovery came on Sunday evening. I noticed something strange in the file details. Chase hadn't just stolen my files. He tried to change the creation dates to make it look like he had made them first. But he had done it poorly, leaving digital clues that screamed tampering. It was like a forger signing a masterpiece with the wrong ink. I opened the specific file, Revenue Projections Q3, Q4. In my dummy version, the seasonal adjustment formula was purposely inverted, making winter sales look like summer sales. For a company in London, this would be a disaster. Their entire inventory plan would be backward, stocking swimwear in December and winter coats in July. The formula was buried in a specific cell, hidden unless you knew where to look. The error wasn't random. It was the kind of mistake someone would make if they didn't really understand Horizon's business. Only a person who had truly analyzed their past data would notice the problem. The customer loss model was equally damaging. By showing the wrong numbers, it suggested Horizon was losing their best customers while gaining less valuable ones. Any executive team seeing this would panic. The real data showed that their loyal customer retention was 82%, which was the best in the industry. My dummy version showed 18%, which would destroy the business. Sunday night, I got an unexpected email from Marcus, our CEO. "Maddie, I need you to bring backup materials to tomorrow's presentation. Chase mentioned you have the supporting documents." I smiled at my screen. Chase was already creating his escape plan, making sure I would be there to blame when things went wrong. Perfect. I replied immediately. Of course, I'll bring everything. And I would. Every real analysis, every accurate model, every piece of documentation showing who created what and when. all on my laptop, backed up on 2 USB drives, and printed in a professional-looking folder. That night, I couldn't sleep, not from nerves, but from excitement. Tomorrow, in a conference room overlooking the Thames, surrounded by people who control a $30 million contract, Chase Darrow would present 6 beautiful lies to an audience who knew their business better than he ever could. And when they started asking real questions, the kind that CFOs ask when numbers don't add up, there would be only one person in the room with the answers. I set my alarm for 5:30 a.m., laid out my suit, and placed my lever folder by the door. Inside were 2 presentations, one showing what Chase stole and one showing what Horizon actually needed. The truth, as they say, would set someone free, just not Chase. The truth prevails. The Horizon conference room was huge, with big windows overlooking the Thames. A long table could fit 20 people, and the technology probably cost more than my annual salary. 14 executives walked in, including Margaret Walsh, the CFO, and James Morrison, Horizon's CEO, a man who had built a retail empire from one small store. Chase arrived 15 minutes early, wearing a suit that probably cost more than my car. He was all confident handshakes and small talk, working the room like a politician. I sat in the front row as promised, my laptop ready, watching him set up his presentation with the calm arrogance of someone who had never had their work fail. Marcus and 2 other new tech partners sat along the wall. The tension was strong. Chase clicked through his first few slides, all shine and promises. Slide 5, revenue projections. The moment the chart appeared, I saw Margaret Walsh's eyebrows go up. The chart showed a 43% revenue increase in the 4th quarter, which was their slowest time of the year in London. "Can you explain this Q4 spike?" Margaret asked, her voice calm but her eyes sharp. Chase's smile didn't break. "Our model shows a hidden potential in your winter customer groups. These numbers are conservative." "Actually," James Morrison said, leaning forward, "we've been in business for 32 years. Our 4th quarter has never been better than our 3rd. Slide 6, customer segmentation. The older community as the main customers. Disaster. Margaret looked at her tablet, comparing Chase's data with her own. "Your analysis shows our main customer group is retired people. Our own data shows that 78% of our money comes from millennials and Gen Z." "That's exactly the change we're suggesting," Chase replied smoothly, but I saw his hand shake slightly on the clicker. Slide 7, inventory planning. The summer clothes in winter special. Now even the younger executives were frowning. "Mr. Darrow," the CFO's voice could have frozen the river outside. "Are you really suggesting we stock swimwear in December in London? The data clearly shows." "The data shows nothing clear," Morrison interrupted. "These numbers aren't just wrong, they're impossible. We would lose millions of dollars if we followed this plan." The room became loud. Executives were pulling out their phones and tablets, checking Chase's numbers against their own reality. Questions came from every direction. Why does the churn rate show we're losing loyal customers when we just had a record number of them? How can our Scottish stores have more foot traffic than our Spanish locations in January? Chase was drowning, throwing out fancy business words that didn't mean anything. Each answer dug him deeper. Sweat formed on his forehead even though the air conditioning was on high. Then Margaret Walsh said the words that changed everything. "Do you even understand our business at all?" The room went silent. 14 faces turned to Chase, waiting for an answer. His mouth opened, closed, and opened again. Nothing came out. Morrison's voice was quiet and deadly. "Miss Cross, do you have anything to add?" Every head turned to me. Chase's face went white. I stood up slowly, smoothing my suit. "Yes, Mr. Morrison, I do." I opened my laptop, with the real analysis already on the screen. "May I?" I asked, holding up an HDMI cable. Morrison nodded. "Please." As I walked to the front of the room, passing Chase's frozen body, I felt 6 years of invisibility falling away. This wasn't about revenge anymore. This was about the truth, competence, and showing a room full of executives what real analysis looked like. The new leader. The screen flickered. Chase's fantasy disappeared, and reality took its place. My screen came to life with the real horizon analysis, clean, precise, and based on facts. The room seemed to take a collective breath as the first correct revenue prediction appeared. A small but real 8% growth in the third quarter, dropping to 5% in the fourth, which exactly matched their past sales. This projection accounts for your seasonal changes, I explained, my voice steady. Any model that suggests otherwise is using broken data or false information. Margaret Walsh leaned forward, looking closely at the screen. These numbers match our own predictions. I clicked to the next slide, showing the real customer segmentation. Your main customers are 25 to 34-year-olds. The previous analysis showing retired people as your growth market used data from 2014. How did that happen? Morrison's question was not directed at me. I switched slides again, showing the inventory plan. Your current strategy is almost perfect. The suggestion to stock summer clothes in winter would result in over $4 million in wasted inventory. Question after question came, and I had answers for each one, backed by real data and careful analysis. I showed them the truth about customer loyalty, 82% for loyal members, the best in the industry. I showed them that their business was actually stronger than they thought. In 40 minutes, I had rebuilt their confidence. This was what a good presentation should look like, honest and helpful. Finally, Morrison raised his hand. Miss Cross, one question. If you had this analysis, why were we shown that? He pointed to Chase, who hadn't moved. I opened a new folder on my laptop. Mr. Morrison, I believe in being completely open. These files show the history of both sets of analyses. The corrupted versions were created as rough drafts, marked not for distribution. They were accessed without permission and presented as final work. Margaret Walsh was looking at her tablet. These match the files we received last week. The details have been changed, but poorly. There's also a clear record showing how the analysis was created, by whom, and when someone else claimed ownership. The room was quiet. I had laid out the evidence like a lawyer, letting the facts speak for themselves. No angry words, no drama, just clear proof that Chase had stolen broken files and tried to pass them off as his own work. Marcus, our CEO, finally spoke. Maddie, why didn't you raise this with us internally? I met his gaze. I did document everything internally. However, my concerns have often been ignored. I believe the client deserved to see the truth. Morrison stood up. I think we need a short break. Miss Cross, please stay. The rest of you, his eyes rested on Chase, please wait outside. As the room emptied, Chase finally found his voice. This is a setup. She deliberately... Mr. Darrow, Morrison cut him off. I suggest you use this time to think carefully about your next move. Once we were alone with the Horizon team, Morrison's attitude changed. That was a big risk you took. My job is to provide accurate analysis, I replied. I couldn't let you make $30 million decisions based on lies. Margaret Walsh was still on her laptop. I've been in this business for 25 years. I've seen every kind of consultant, but I've rarely seen someone risk their career for the sake of good data. She looked at Morrison. I want her to lead this project. Morrison nodded. Miss Cross, can you deliver what you just showed us? Yes, but I'll need a real team, not just assistants. I'll need the power to make decisions, not just do what someone else tells me to do. And I'll need direct access to your data and your people. Done, Morrison said, shaking my hand. Shall we invite the others back in? As the new tech team came back in, Morrison's message was short and clear. We're moving forward with the project, but with one condition. Maddie Cross leads the project. It's not up for discussion. I watched Chase's world fall apart. His face showed disbelief, then anger, then desperate thought. But there was nothing he could do. He had defeated himself with my poisoned pawns. The drive back to the office was strange. Chase left the meeting and was walked out of the building to get his things. Marcus stayed behind to fix the situation. I drove alone, windows down, feeling lighter than I had in years. When I got back to the office, the news had already spread. Email is fast, but office gossip is faster. People who had walked past my office for years knew my name. Directors who had never looked at me wanted to get coffee. The cloak of invisibility I had worn for 6 years had disappeared. But the real satisfaction came from something I hadn't expected. Throughout that week, other analysts started coming to me in private. They told me stories of their own work being stolen. I wasn't alone. I was just the first to write everything down and fight back. By Friday, I had a real team for Horizon. Not political choices, but real analysts who understood data and cared about being correct. We jumped into the project with excitement. The models worked perfectly, the insights were clear, and Horizon was thrilled. 3 weeks later, I was deep in my work when an email popped up. The sender made me stop. Chase Darrow. Can we get coffee? I think I owe you an explanation. I stared at the screen for a full minute before writing my reply. No. Sometimes the strongest answer is the simplest. I saved his email and went back to my work. He tried 2 more times in the following days with longer, more desperate emails. I didn't reply. Some bridges, once burned, should stay burned. The Horizon project was finished 4 months later, on time and under budget. The 8% growth we predicted, they hit 9%. The new inventory plans saved them $3 million in the first 3 months alone. Morrison sent a handwritten note to Marcus, specifically praising my team's work. It's now framed on my office wall, my new office, the corner one with windows overlooking the Thames. I never found out what happened to Chase. His social media showed he had a new role at a company no one had heard of. Then his profile went dark. The industry has a long memory for big failures, especially ones involving clients. He had run out of charm and hit the hard wall of competence. As for me, I published my research paper under my own name, just as I had planned. Data Integrity and Predictive Modeling, a case study in retail analytics. It won Best Paper at the National Data Science Conference, the same conference Chase had submitted his abstract to with my broken charts. The night after the paper was accepted, I sat in my new office as the sun set over London. 6 years of being invisible, of watching others take credit for my wins, of being told I wasn't a leader. All it took was someone foolish enough to steal the wrong files and arrogant enough to present them as his own. I opened a new project folder, Q3 Strategic Initiative, MC, my initials, right where they belonged. No dummy files this time, just clean, honest data waiting to tell its story. My phone buzzed with a text from Morrison. Looking forward to the quarterly review. Glad we have someone who actually understands our business. I smiled, saved my work, and went home. The invisible woman was gone. In her place stood someone who had learned the most valuable lesson in business. Document everything. Trust carefully. And when someone tries to steal your work, make sure what they're stealing is exactly what they deserve.